Hey everybody, welcome back to another max velocity weather forecast, and today what we're going over is the tropics. We have a huge update regarding Tropical Depression 9, which is likely to become a hurricane and potentially a major hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, and it may make landfall in Florida. I'm going to give you the latest breakdown on the track, the intensity, and what you need to know ahead of this system. Let's hop in first to the infrared imagery. This is a live look as of right now with this system. There is a lot of convection, a lot of thunderstorm activity ongoing with this, but what I find very interesting is the low pressure system is actually centered to the east of the convection. It's a very interesting setup, and that's due to the wind shear that we're seeing. So it's a very interesting setup overall, and again, this is continually moving off to the west and west northwest. It will eventually move into a more favorable environment over the next 48 hours. And before we get too far into detail with Tropical Depression 9, I just want to mention the tropics are extremely active. We have 5 different systems right now that we're watching very closely. Hurricane Fiona, as you may know, has made some impacts to Bermuda recently. It's going to be moving into Nova Scotia later today into the evening hours. Gaston also, that's a tropical storm. It's well out into the northeastern Atlantic Ocean. That will not impact the United States by any means. We also have Tropical Depression 10 that has just formed off the Africa coast. This is forecasted to stay well toward east. Will not impact us either. And another area of development out in the central Atlantic Ocean. This is forecasted to most likely go off to the north. Low chance it goes out in this direction, but just something to monitor over the long term. Now, this graphic will show you the spaghetti models, and this basically refers to a lot of computer models combined into one graphic showing you where this eye may go over the next several days. And interestingly enough, it's a pretty wide range right now, even 120 hours out, which is about this white line. You can see it ranges from basically the central Gulf of Mexico all the way back closer to areas like Miami. Now, there is still a potential this does entirely miss Florida. It's a low chance right now, but it does seem like it's very likely we will see this hurricane most likely make landfall over Florida. So this will definitely be something to watch over the next several days. Now, I want to show you the jet stream. The jet stream is actually going to play a massive part into what this system does in the Gulf of Mexico and where it makes landfall. In comparison to Hurricane Fiona as of right now, this will actually be steered by this trough that is centered over areas in New England back up into Canada. Now, heading into next week, early next week, we'll begin to see another dip in the jet stream over the northeastern United States. That will steer this system most likely, depending on how far west or east the jet stream is, could very well inhibit and really influence the track of this system. And you can see the European model indicating it would kind of go over Florida and eventually track out to the northeast. Now, if it's even further dipped to the south and further to the east, we could very well see this system go out to sea and not really impact the United States that greatly. But again, that scenario seems very unlikely. And this is the National Hurricane Center's forecast as of today, and it is a very large area of uncertainty that we're still looking at as this system approaches Florida. And very clearly, it actually indicates that we could see this go as far east as out to sea towards the Bahamas, or it might go as far west as the Florida Panhandle. But the most likely scenario is that this will likely go towards the west coast of Florida, and it will most likely become a major hurricane as it approaches Florida. That is why we need to be watching the system very closely. Again, no reason to panic. Just make sure you're prepared for the system as it approaches Florida. And this is the intensity guide. This is just combining all the computer models again onto one graphic showing you what their intensities are currently at in terms of this system. And most of them keep it between a category 2 to a category 3 level. So that's what's forecasted as of right now when it makes landfall potentially. And again, Florida. That seems again like the most likely scenario as of right now. Otherwise, again, if it goes further east, we could see it go even higher. If it goes further even to the west, we could also see it go higher. So again, it's going to be a system to watch very closely over the next several days. Let's give you an idea of what we're looking at in terms of the computer models, beginning with the European model. It eventually indicates that this system will go into areas like Cuba and eventually make landfall in Florida, most likely on Wednesday. That is pretty close to what the National Hurricane Center is currently forecasting. And interestingly enough, it only shows that this system will get to maybe a category 1 or 2 hurricane. So that would be better news than it being a category 3 or 4. So there is a little bit of something to watch there if it goes further to the east. Now, in comparison to the GFS model, the GFS model brings it to a much stronger system over the open waters of the Caribbean, almost dodges Cuba, so it won't make much of an impact there, but then it crashes into Florida as a stronger hurricane. So that's kind of the difference with the two computer models. Now, again, it's just a model, it's not a forecast, so we'll have to watch this system closely again as it evolves over the next several days. I will keep you updated on max velocity with the latest. Hit the subscribe button down below and like the video. Click the bell icon so you get notified as well. This forecast is brought to you by Platinum Contracting and All Dents Repair.